Welcome back to Patching the Prairie. It's been a while since we posted a video. Life's just been pretty busy, but I thought today's video I would talk about what I've learned raising sheep the past few years in two states. We've raised sheep in California and South Dakota. So you got to pick the right breed for your context, and for us, shearing was not an option. We didn't want to mess with that, so we chose to raise hair sheep. And if you don't know what hair sheep are, they naturally shed their wool, and it's a very low quality wool and can't really be used for spinning or anything like that, but they do make for very easy management. So in California we had heavily Dorper influenced hair sheep genetics, and here in South Dakota we have Katahdins. Things to think about: sheep can be challenging from a health standpoint, especially if you're used to other species. They're extremely susceptible to internal parasites. We didn't really have a whole lot of problems with worms in California. I think a lot of that had to do with the overall generally dry environment, and here in South Dakota we've run into some different issues in regards to the parasites. I have in the past had a purist regenerative agriculture mindset, I guess, in that the animals have worms, I'm not going to treat them. That way my flock is genetically resistant to parasites. And I come to the realization, while in theory that certainly might work well, my wallet cannot. So we are worming any animals that need it, but they will not be retained as breeding animals, and we will be making sure that they are sold and not retained. That way I can still work towards a parasite resistant flock without taking any financial hit. Other things to consider: other diseases, other common ones like foot rot. That's an issue that we had a lot in California from the place that we source the sheep. It's a fairly minor health issue, but it can become quite cumbersome, trimming hooves, trying to get that infection dried out and treating for that disease. So if you can not introduce that to your flock, that is certainly ideal. Another thing to think about is predators. Since sheep are susceptible to predators, we have used a llama successfully for the most part. We never had any issues with canines killing any sheep, but we did get into a very remote location in California in the mountains, and we did have a mountain lion that appeared and was taking sheep, and the llama was absolutely defenseless against that. Here in South Dakota we have not run into any predator issues. We do have a livestock guardian dog that we were unsuccessfully able to get bonded with the sheep, but she does roam the property, and so I think she does a good job. We know there's definitely coyotes in the neighborhood, and we haven't had any problems. And I often am running our dairy cows with the sheep flock as well, and I think they do provide a little bit of predator protection. I found it's very important to lay them in sync with your forage supply. So in California I actually used to have two lambing groups, one in the spring as the spring flush was happening, and then we often were able to irrigate the pastures we were on, and so that helped us have a good steady supply. Here in South Dakota I only lamb in the spring, usually around May 10th, and at that time we've had the most amount of grass. We also have always utilized pasture lambing. We've never put them in jugs, with the rare exception of some special circumstances like grafting on a lamb or something like that. Pasture lambing has worked well for us. We've never done it any other way, and it's been great. It helps to reduce diseases. We've never had to treat for any scours or anything like that. So we recommend pasture lambing if you have the ability to do that. Another thing to think about would be fencing, and we have found that there's nothing better than electric netting. It can be very labor intensive, but if you have good netting and good repair and a strong enough energizer on your netting, then you're able to keep the sheep in, and it's also very portable, so you can move them wherever you need to go. Important consideration to think about is what type of feed you have available in your pastures. Sheep really do prefer to eat a lot of weeds and forbs and higher nutritional plants. I read in the Stockman Grass Farmer that a ewe with twins has a 40% higher nutritional requirement than a beef cow-calf pair, and the way they make up that difference in nutrition is by eating the more nutritious plants. So sheep will eat a lot of grass as well, but they do prefer to have some type of browsing forage, and if you only have grass you may be better suited to just running cattle.